LeBron James finally broke his silence on the rumor mill, putting Ben Simmons right back in his backcourt spacing in Philly. Ever since LeBron shook the league by signing with the 76ers, the hype about a Simmons return has gained massive momentum. Now, a cryptic reaction from King James has fans side-eyeing this entire Philly frontcourt situation. It begs the question, does LeBron actually want Simmons in this rotation? Let's break down what is really happening behind closed doors. LeBron James did not slide back to LA, and he skipped the Cleveland homecoming. He chose the grind in Philadelphia. That signing shifted the East's power dynamic instantly. The reactions were loud, hostile, and came from the game's biggest stars. Caitlin Clark watched the news drop in real time and kept it completely real. She flat out said, "No way." Then she admitted she is tuning into more 76ers games now that LeBron is running the floor. That is the exact high-octane buzz the Philly front office craved. They got their spotlight, but not everyone cheered. Gilbert Arenas, always ready with a hot take, made his stance clear. The signing did not sit right with No Chill Gil. He joked that Savannah James definitely did not sign off on this Philly move. He claimed 0 people approved LeBron packing for Philly. It was funny, but it echoed exactly what a lot of diehard fans felt. The blockbuster deal came completely out of left field, leaving fans struggling to process the shift in Eastern Conference power. Then came Jaylen Brown, Philly's massive offseason acquisition from Boston. His reaction on social media was short, precise, and straight to business. He simply dropped the team's new hashtag and left it there. No long-winded paragraphs, no deep tactical breakdown. Just a clear sign his focus is locked on the championship. Anthony Simons brought a totally different energy. He treated the signing like a total shocker, saying he woke up, caught the headline, and thought it was pure fiction. Simons admitted he had to double-check the sources before realizing LeBron on the 76ers was actually a concrete reality. 4 different ballers. 4 completely distinct takes on the biggest transaction of the summer. But the reaction that truly fueled the rumor fire came from Dwight Howard. Howard did not just celebrate LeBron joining the 76ers, he used the massive hype to campaign for a former teammate. Howard wanted to put another controversial player back under the bright lights, posting a throwback photo of him and Simmons in Philly. He attached a blunt caption urging the front office to bring Simmons home. That single post set Hoops group chats completely ablaze. Remember, Simmons has not logged competitive minutes in over a year after sitting out the entire 2025 to 2026 season. Yet, Simmons has made it known he wants back on the hardwood under the right competitive circumstances. And guess what? Rumors already linked the 76ers as one of his preferred landing spots alongside Pat Riley's Miami Heat. So when Howard linked Simmons directly to LeBron's arrival, it did not feel like some random off-season social media post. It felt like a strategic push toward a reunion that suddenly made basketball sense. Here is why this goes beyond typical trade rumor fodder. The history between LeBron and Simmons goes way deeper than just battles on the NBA hardwood. Early in his career, LeBron mentored him closely. They shared the same agency and hit the gym together during off-seasons. So when LeBron's move to the 76ers became official, the Simmons chatter did not just come out of thin air. It was built on a real connection forged over a decade. And looking at the actual depth chart, the fit makes sense. Philly did not just tweak the edges of their rotation this summer, they rebuilt a juggernaut around Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown. They are leading the charge, with LeBron and VJ Edgecombe in the mix. This roster already looks completely loaded. Back them up with a deep bench featuring Dean Wade, Anthony Simons, Dominic Barlow, and Adam Bona, and you have a legitimate title contender. That is why Las Vegas is giving this new-look 76ers squad elite championship odds. But one glaring hole remains in their rotation. They desperately need reliable front-court depth behind Embiid. That is exactly where a healthy Ben Simmons could carve out an elite role. If he accepts a veteran minimum contract, he could play that backup role without putting any financial strain on the front office. This move would protect their salary cap after absorbing LeBron's massive contract. So this is not just about LeBron reacting to old news. This is about LeBron's gravity, opening a door to an off-season reunion that once seemed entirely impossible for this franchise. League insiders are already framing it exactly like that. LeBron's presence, the roster spacing needs, and Simmons' hunger to return have shifted the entire paradigm. The entire narrative has shifted. A door that once seemed locked shut suddenly has someone jiggling the handle behind the scenes. To understand why that door slammed shut, and why LeBron is the only one who can unlock it. We have to look back. We have to look back to a specific draft class, a shared powerhouse agency, and a deep-rooted connection. A bond forged long before Philly was ever on the radar for either superstar. Because this is not just cheap off-season media clickbait. This relationship runs deep, going back nearly an entire decade. Ben Simmons entered the league as the #1 overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft, drafted by the 76ers after his lone year at LSU. He missed his entire rookie season with a broken foot. But when he finally debuted, way back in 2017, the kid burst onto the hardwood, immediately locking down Rookie of the Year. From there, his trajectory pointed straight toward pure superstardom. He locked down 3 straight All-Star selections, 2 All-Defensive First-Team honors, and finished a razor-thin runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. During his final complete season, Ben Simmons looked like a legitimate, franchise-altering cornerstone. And now with LeBron James in the mix, that unfinished narrative might get another chapter. Remember, before that brutal back injury derailed his momentum in 2020, Ben Simmons was absolutely not the disappointing draft bust that critics paint him as today. Not even close. He dominated to win Rookie of the Year from 2017 through 2018. Right after that, he reeled off 3 consecutive All-Star selections to cement his status as an elite transition threat. He even grabbed an All-NBA third-team spot along the way. Make no mistake, this was not empty media hype. This was a legitimate superstar rising fast with elite court vision, and he was only just entering his mid-20s. The Philadelphia front office saw that elite potential and did not hesitate. Before Simmons even finished his initial rookie-scale contract, the Sixers locked their hybrid point forward down with a massive 5-year max contract extension, worth well over $100 million. At the time, general manager Elton Brand hailed him as one of the absolute most dynamic, high IQ playmakers in the entire league, and made it abundantly clear they expected him to grow into the franchise leader. That profound belief was not a one-way street either. Simmons talked openly about polishing his mid-range jump shot, raising his efficiency, and leveling up in every single facet. That was also the exact period when his connection with LeBron James really began to solidify, with both stars signed to Rich Paul at Klutch Sports. The exact same powerhouse agency also represents Tyrese Maxey, who serves as a crucial backcourt engine for this current Sixers squad. LeBron, already sporting multiple championship rings, was not just observing from the sidelines, he was fully locked into the process. They trained together intensely during the off-seasons, and LeBron paid close attention to the raw development of Simmons, like a veteran superstar who saw serious, elite potential. But that tight professional connection did not remain steady over time. Simmons eventually walked away from Klutch, electing to sign with rival representation. For a stretch, that representation change lined up with the most brutal, scrutinized chapters of his career, culminating in that messy trade to Brooklyn. He was bouncing between franchises while desperately trying to regain his court vision, transition momentum, and overall confidence. Now, here is where things get interesting. Simmons is officially back in the fold with Klutch Sports, back under Rich Paul, which places him right back in that dominant inner circle with LeBron. They share the same agency representation, the same strategic conversations, and the same backroom influence. And that reality carries more weight than critics think, because signing a veteran minimum contract does not happen in isolation. There is always a massive behind-the-scenes network involved. When Simmons spoke on his own podcast about the newly constructed roster of the Sixers, he absolutely did not hold back a single thing. He straight up compared their roster makeup to the stacked 2012 Lakers squad, that heavily hyped super team with Kobe, Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, and Pau Gasol, that ultimately failed to win big. Playing alongside LeBron in Philly was termed the most fun basketball situation in the entire league. He claimed this modern roster actually has far cleaner spacing and transition upside than that 2012 Lakers squad ever did. That is not someone detached. That sounds like a point forward already visualizing himself orchestrating that transition offense. And then you have got Rich Paul throwing high-octane fuel on the fire. On another major podcast, Paul made a fierce case that Simmons still possesses elite, franchise-changing value in today's NBA. He even boldly suggested that Simmons could easily be worth up to $30 million a year if he lands in the correct front-court role. especially on a contender like the Sixers, who desperately need high IQ playmaking and defensive presence in the front court behind Joel Embiid. Let that sink in. The elite agent for Simmons, who also represents King James, is out here publicly driving the narrative that his client still has a massive, championship-caliber role to play. This is not some baseless rumor circulating on social media. This intel is coming directly from inside the exact same powerhouse circle that just delivered LeBron to Philadelphia. So when people ask how LeBron feels about Simmons joining the Sixers, the answer is not just about a simple, quick reaction. It all starts with a tight professional bond that has existed for years, cultivated under the exact same elite agency, and now aligning perfectly at this critical postseason window in Philly. LeBron did not need to actively construct a connection here. It is already built directly into the fabric of the situation. But you simply cannot talk about a potential Simmons homecoming without confronting the ugly reality of how everything fractured the first time around. His departure from the Sixers was anything but clean. It was toxic, loud, and unforgettable. That is exactly why that recent post by Dwight Howard did not just spark standard off-season hype. It dragged all that old playoff trauma rushing back. This is where the entire narrative shifted. All the love and support Simmons enjoyed as Philly's golden boy took a devastating hit during that catastrophic 2021 postseason. The Sixers entered the postseason with legitimate title aspirations, riding Joel Embiid playing at an absolute MVP level. Simmons was fresh off his premier defensive season, and this loaded roster was perfectly positioned to make a deep run through the playoffs. Then the wheels completely came off in that fateful series against the Atlanta Hawks, as they brutally exposed his complete lack of a jump shot, dominating every sports media cycle. The infamous breakdown everyone remembers came late in that crucial Game 7, when he inexplicably passed up an absolute wide-open dunk that could have tied up the score. Instead of attacking, he coughed up the rock. That one turnover became the ultimate symbol of their complete collapse. Philly ended up dropping that entire postseason series in a way that felt totally avoidable, with the fan base dumping all the blame on Simmons. And the toxic fallout did not quiet down. It got worse, much worse. This was no silent offseason where both camps tried to rebuild team chemistry. Simmons demanded a trade, and when management did not deal him instantly, he went completely AWOL. He skipped training camp, ducked his mandatory media day duties, and during a massive stretch of that 2021 to 2022 campaign, he remained a total ghost on their active roster. While the drama played out publicly and the tension scaled up, there was a brief flash where it seemed the storm might settle between Simmons and the Philly front office. Both sides made a genuine push to clear the air. The playmaker returned to Philly, working behind the scenes to step back into their rotation. For a fleeting, brief second, it really felt like both camps were ready to establish court spacing and move forward. He actually laced up for practice, sharing the hardwood with his teammates for the first time that entire year, and head coach Doc Rivers told the media the vibe in the building felt genuinely upbeat. But doubts still lingered about his physical availability for opening night. But during that brief window of optimism, it seemed like a massive comeback story was completely possible. Then, in the blink of an eye, their chemistry totally collapsed. During a half-court defensive drill at practice, Simmons was ordered to join the defensive rotation, and he refused. Coach Rivers did not hesitate, tossing him from the floor immediately. Simmons walked out. The hammer came down fast. Philly slapped him with an instant team suspension, and just like that, his career in Philly was over. Done. That stood as the final chapter of his run, in a Sixers uniform, because he never actually suited up for them again. This franchise-altering trade finally went down at deadline that same year. Simmons was shipped to the Brooklyn Nets in a massive trade deadline swap that landed superstar scorer James Harden in Philadelphia. On paper, it looked like a true blockbuster trade that could reset the timeline for both franchises. But in reality, things didn't go the way anyone drew it up. Before Simmons could even get his first bucket on the Brooklyn court, his back totally betrayed him. He finally got cleared by medical staff, but a brutal, unexpected physical setback shut down his season before it even began. This all-star, who once looked like one of the absolute premier point forwards in basketball, suddenly vanished from NBA floorboards for over a full calendar year. Then came one of the most bizarre, unexpected twists in recent league history. After his run with Brooklyn ended, Simmons agreed to a buyout and ended up signing a prorated veteran minimum deal with the Clippers, sharing the court with James Harden, the guy he was traded for in the Clippers. First place. You cannot write a script like that. LeBron James actually talked about this stage of Simmons' journey when they faced each other following that high-profile signing. When reporters asked about Simmons landing in LA, LeBron kept his post-game feedback highly balanced. He noted that was still adjusting to his role, finding his footing in their system, and needed more court time before anyone could judge how things would work out. He voiced real confidence that the coaching staff could put Simmons in the perfect position to succeed on the floor. That might sound like a simple, standard post-game response, but it reveals a ton. LeBron does not view Simmons with harsh judgment. He looks at him with extreme patience, like a veteran champion who remembers how dominant he was on the court, and still believes that all defensive caliber playmaker has not completely vanished. But even with that perspective, none of it erases what went down in Philly. No quiet divorce here. This was highly public, deeply tense, incredibly messy, and it left a massive, permanent scar on the fan base. That is exactly why Dwight Howard's post calling for a Simmons reunion didn't unite the city. It divided them. Some fans got hyped for a comeback, while others instantly pushed back, bringing up old receipts and viral playoff memes to question why the front office would even consider it. For many in Philly, what happened during that 2021 postseason run still does not sit right. That resentment has not faded. That is what makes LeBron's role in all of this so incredibly fascinating. He is not stepping into a clean situation with zero toxic history. He is walking right into a franchise that still carries the heavy, emotional baggage of that entire dramatic saga. Yet, his veteran presence might be the catalyst that flips the script on the outcome. To truly understand how Simmons clawed his way back into league discussions years later, you have to look closely at the fallout following that dramatic team suspension. Because his professional career did not just stall, it nearly disappeared under a mountain of physical setbacks. Once he joined Brooklyn, it was not just about learning a new offensive scheme. His chronic back issues shadowed him in Brooklyn and never truly cleared up. He battled severe, chronic nerve damage, spinal complications, surgical procedures, and grueling rehab stretches that dragged across several full NBA seasons. And on the rare nights he did suit up, he was not the player fans remembered. That signature elite burst and open-floor explosiveness had completely evaporated. He could still guard multiple perimeter positions and make plays, but the cold, hard stats told a far grimmer story. Back in his prime years with Philly, Simmons was averaging nearly 16 points, 8 boards, and 8 assists every single night. But by the time he landed with the Clippers, the drop-off was brutal, was clear and impossible to ignore. During that 2024 to 2025 season, split between the Nets and Clippers, Simmons got some floor time, playing 51 games, averaging 5 points, 5.6 assists, and 4.7 boards in about 22 minutes of floor time. Those are respectable numbers for a bench rotation piece, but it is a massive drop-off from the elite ceiling you expect from a former #1 overall pick and multi-time All-Star, and then pure radio silence. The very next season, he completely vanished from the hardwood. 0 minutes played. Not even a single second. He spent that whole season sitting at home as an unsigned free agent, his name completely evaporating from trade rumors, league headlines, and front office radars. At that point, it was easy to think his story on the hardwood was officially over. Another top draft pick whose career got totally derailed by physical breakdowns and never fully recovered. But now, with LeBron James officially running the court in Philly, the rumor mill is spinning, and that ending is no longer set in stone. Just earlier this summer, Ben Simmons sent a loud message across the league his career is far from over. Talking with Men's Health, he opened up about the brutal back injuries that derailed his high-level career. More importantly, he made it clear he wants back on the hardwood, actively hunting an NBA roster spot, possibly as soon as this upcoming season. While he did not lock in a definitive franchise landing spot, he did name-drop a couple of preferred destinations. And yes, Philadelphia was high on his list. He also teased Miami as a system fit, but that Philly mention is what really sparked the buzz. That was what really got the rumor mill turning. Before that interview, Simmons had basically vanished from free agency conversations. After it, League insiders and reporters started digging, making phone calls, and connecting the dots behind the scenes. One major sports breakdown even claimed that bringing Simmons back to Philly after their toxic playoff fallout sounds straight up fictional. But at the same time, if he is finally healthy and signs a cheap veteran minimum contract, the logic actually makes total sense for the Sixers front office. That is the wild dynamic here. On paper, it sounds completely crazy, but deep down, it actually works. Let us be totally honest here. Nobody is expecting Simmons to suddenly jump back into his elite, all-star caliber form. Those elite individual accolades are no longer the expectation. The real-world value is a cheap, versatile defender who can switch across multiple positions, facilitate the offense on the break, and give Joel Embiid some crucial rest without destroying the team's salary cap. That is not some headline blockbuster trade, but rather a calculated rotation depth play. And what makes this potential reunion even more interesting is who is blank batter Wace, quietly backing the idea behind closed doors. While all this off-season talk was building, Simmons was not just sitting on the couch waiting for a team. He actually spent part of his year investing in a commercial fishing operation in South Florida. That crew even went on to win a championship earlier this year. It sounds incredibly random, does it not? But it proves his mind was sharp. He was actively building something while putting in heavy court work to get himself game ready. By the time King James made his decision, Simmons was already popping up in roster conversations around the Sixers, with Miami still tracking him as well. But let us be honest, Philly carries the most weight because of the raw history and system fit. LeBron did not just pull this rumor out of thin air. His high-profile signing just turned the volume all the way up on something that had already been quietly building among front offices for weeks. So, where do things actually stand right now? Here is the truth. Ben Simmons has not signed any contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. There has been no introductory press conference, no fresh jersey reveal, and absolutely no official announcement. But at the same time, this reunion feels closer than ever. The Sixers front office has already executed massive moves this offseason. They signed LeBron James, and they traded for Jaylen Brown. They locked up scoring guard Anthony Simons early. They even snagged Kentavious Caldwell-Pope off the buyout market, giving the King a trusted championship-caliber veteran from his past. This squad is completely stacked now, yet a low-cost Simmons signing could still be next. Team insiders are calling this potential signing a final, highly calculated roster play that the front office is actively weighing. One league executive even hinted that Simmons could emerge as the single most shocking comeback story of this entire offseason. The plan is a simple one-year veteran minimum contract to fill their final open roster spot. Think about how insane that sounds compared to where his trade value was just a few months ago. This idea would have been laughed off court back then. Now, it is a serious front office talking point. And there are three big reasons why this is actually happening. First, LeBron is wearing a Sixers jersey. Second, Philly desperately needs defensive depth behind Joel Embiid in that big man rotation. And third, Simmons is practically begging for this chance. That personal drive is massive. He has explicitly stated his desire to rebuild his reputation on the very same floor where he first became a star. He wants to face the music right where things fell apart and rewrite the narrative. For years, his entire career has been defined by that single, infamous postseason collapse and his ugly exit. So, yes, there is massive storybook potential in him rewriting his legacy. Not in another market, but right back under those Philly rafters. And that is exactly where LeBron James becomes the crucial piece. The King did not bring his championship gravity to Philly just to Simmons back. The guy returned because he genuinely believes this roster can capture a chip. He said it himself, and that Klutch Sports connection with Tyrese Maxey definitely helped grease the wheels to make it happen. But once LeBron took his talents to Philly, the whole gravity of the league shifted. Suddenly, the Simmons camp had leverage to push for another shot. The front office suddenly had a green light to talk trade, and the fan base went from outright hostile to low-key curious about how his playmaking and spacing might work. Dwight Howard is openly lobbying for this. That post was no accident. He is backing a former teammate who still has elite defensive tools. Rich Paul is working the phones, pushing the narrative that Simmons is still an elite asset if a coach unlocks his transition game. And Simmons has let it slip that running the floor with LeBron James anchoring the offense is the ultimate dream scenario for him. Look, none of this guarantees a contract. Blockbuster deals fall apart all the time. A failed physical, luxury tax issues, or front office cold feet could kill the momentum instantly. That is just the nature of the business. But here is the cold, hard truth. The door that was once slammed shut and locked is now standing wide open, propped open by a backdoor agency connection that never truly died, even when the rest of Simmons' reputation was burning to the ground. Whatever happens next, one crucial detail is set in stone. LeBron did not just sign off on the idea of Simmons sharing the Philly hardwood. His blockbuster decision to join the Sixers is the sole reason this insane trade scenario is even on the table. The league office is definitely sweating right now. The shadow brokers at Klutch Sports are actively manipulating the chess pieces to force another illegal super team. Mark my words, the league will step in and veto this deal before they let Rich Paul run the entire Eastern Conference. Philly is desperate enough to pull the trigger on this, even if it completely destroys their locker room chemistry by February. Watch closely, because the moment this trade goes down, the entire power dynamic in the East gets blown to pieces.